Borag Thung Earthlets, and welcome to In Orbit every Wednesday from the 2000 AD thrillcast. You will notice that you can only hear one voice on this introduction. Alas, my co-host Chloe has been struck down by some cursed earth malady and is not able to join us for this episode. But I hope I, your host Mulchar, will be able to shoulder the burden. And it's just as well because we've got a special guest on this episode. Director Ben Wheatley, who's the guy behind The Kill List, Free Fire, A Field in England, The Meg 2, is our guest on this episode to talk about Judge Dee, which is his story, which has been ringing 2000 AD for the last few weeks. Which is a tale of demonic possession and psi judges and all sorts, and all harking back to the haunting of Sector House 9 in 1984, which is that classic supernatural story by John Wagner, Alan Grant, and with art by Brett Ewins. Bit of a classic from the heyday of Judge Dredd. So I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to get Ben onto the podcast to chat about, the difference between writing comics and writing movies, and how 2000 AD has influenced him, and his memories of 2000 AD. If you've not listened to the last time he was on the podcast, which oh my grud was 10 years ago, then do go along to our YouTube or wherever you get this podcast from. It was 2016, but we repeated it about 4 years ago. So just Google Ben Wheatley Thrillcast and you'll find the episode. We go into a lot more detail than we do in this episode about his early memories of 2000 AD and how it's influenced him. So kind of, this is a catch up with him. So absolutely fascinating chat with him. Now, what I'm about to do is mainly for the people on YouTube, but if I sit up, it's somebody's birthday. That's right. It is 49 years since Judge Dredd first appeared in the pages of 2000 AD. And if you go along to shop.rebellion.com, you'll be able to find new merch celebrating the future's greatest lawman. So let's crack on with this episode and our special guest, Ben Wheatley. And we do so with a hearty get well soon, Chloe. Enjoy this chat, Earthlets, and we'll see you in 7 days' time. Splundig Verthrig.
Get 2000 AD now. Get 2000.
Like I said before we started chatting, it has been 10 years since you were last on the podcast. To say that there's been a lot of water under the bridge since then is a bit of an understatement, considering what's happened with the world. But I re-listened to it to think of any questions for this. And you just done the High Rise adaptation, the J.G. Ballard adaptation, and this time you're taking your latest film around Bulk to cinemas, aren't you? Tell us a little bit about that, because I when I was looking, I looked at the Variety interview. Sorry, the Variety review, and it called it a conspiracy thriller, time-bending sci-fi and goofy genre parody, which is possibly the most 2000 AD review of that could there possibly be of any of your films.
Yeah, I mean, it's all those things and none of those things, and yeah, and I think I have been going around. Like at the end of the movie has a big in the credits has a big like thank you section, which is kind of usually thank you sections only mention like a cab firm and your parents and a pizza place that you all ate at as a crew and like lawyers or something, but in this thing, I just listed everything I could think of. So 2000 AD does get a shout out in that because it is like a Tharg's Future Shock. It's like Chrono Cops or something like that. But then it's lots of other stuff. It's like Alphaville, and then it's got animation in it and model work and alternate reality stuff. So it's kind of, it does jump around a lot. But it was, it was kind of it'd been kind of influenced by writing comics. So it'd come out of doing Cosmic Music that I did with Joe Curry, and then I kind of wrote. Then I kind of wrote this bulk, and then it was kind of I ended up writing the 2000 AD stuff that I've been doing. So it's all kind of intermingled, really.
Right. I mean, that you've mentioned the main point of our chat, which is that Judge Dee, your I mean, not your debut in comics, but your debut in 2000 AD has been running for a few weeks. So I thought it be perfect opportunity to chat about it, because when we chatted back in 2016, we'd kind of we picked over what your first prog was, you know, and the influence of those early. We talked an awful lot, it turns out, about the Apocalypse War.
Yes,
Which-
I'd still talk about that now. This is the danger, isn't it? 10 years later, you just say the same stuff. I probably will as well. I have made the mistake of not listening to that recently, so I have no idea what I said, but I can guess.
well, yeah, I mean, it was a hefty dose of nostalgia. Let's put it that way.
Well, nostalgia for me, it's just happened.
Yeah. I mean that is the thing. Time has completely lost all meaning. But yeah, so I mean, Judge Dee, tell us a bit about Judge Dee and just why you decided you wanted to write for 2000 AD after all this time.
Um, I think that with Judge Dee I started thinking about 2000 AD and what I wanted to do in it, and I had a personal connection to the haunting of Sector House 9, and it was that I'd met Brett Ewins when I was a kid. So I'd been to a friend of a friend knew of my mum knew Ewins, and I was massively into comics as a kid and drew a lot. And so they said, "Oh, do you want to meet Brett Ewins?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Of course, my God, what that you can? Because I'd come very close to getting into King's Reach Tower as a kid as well. But it was promised as a birthday present, and like because my auntie worked for IPC magazines, and it
Right.
didn't come off because of some adult based bullshit, which I never got to the bottom of. But it was something like, well, you know, that thing we said it's not going to happen now. So I was just slightly crushed about that. But this was you know it's going to happen, and I'd loved his stuff from the early bits and from Rogue Trooper.
Mm.
Um, and that strip was out at that point. So I went to see him in his house, in his little flat, with a big pile of those issues, and he signed them. And he was just doing Johnny Nemo, so there was Strange Days was just coming out, and they had like I remember quite vividly like seeing like little like clippings of the Terminator on the wall and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, wow, that looks cool. And so it's like it's total indelible memory for me, you know, burnt right into my brain. And I had those signed copies, you know, into adulthood from Ewins and followed his stuff from that point forward, you know, as well. But Strange Days is a massively important comic as well, I think, or basically the start of Mad Max Fury Road as much as anything. And I remember seeing you know, he had Road Warrior stuff stuck on his walls as well in his drawing room. So I felt like when I started thinking about that, I thought, what if you go back to that? What happened there? It doesn't add up. I didn't think. I think there was unfinished business there, obviously. So I wondered what that would be, and then I started writing and just following the mad trail of what it would be. And then I started thinking about Dee herself and like thinking, well, I'd like I like that stuff like the Wally Squad or the people are on the edge of judgesness, you know, and they're slightly dodgy, but not quite, but they're working within the rules, but it's all a bit it's a little bit hazy, which is interesting in a world that's so binary, you know, in terms of the law. And then what would happen if she'd been involved in this thing that had gone wrong, and then she was carrying the guilt of that, but it was like helping her, but it was also hindering her, and just what that level of complication, like an Elroy novel, where you're just juggling all this stuff all the time and trying not to get caught while having to work as well. So that was the beginning of it, and I just thought I'd put her in a really difficult situation and see where it pans out, how it pans out. But there's callbacks to the Apocalypse War, unsurprisingly, and stuff like that. And got to create Judge Claypole. If only he was only in it for about 3 panels. So my mission and path is complete.
Well, I mean, this is like train spotting for people who are into 80s culture and kind of folk horror stuff, because you've got Judge Borley, because of course Borley Rectory is most haunted house in England. You've got Judge Claypole. It's I mean, that above all else, you seem like you were having an awful lot of fun with this.
Yeah, but that's part of the gig, isn't it? With the block names and the stuff around, the detail of the stuff in Judge Dredd is always rich. There's another layer of reading always in those things. I mean, it's not the main thing, but it's part of it. It is definitely part of the rhythm of it. So I had the opportunity to do it, so I did it.
I mean, you kind of hit on something there that particularly that, because Haunting a Sector House 9 was what, 1984. Ed glancing over at his other computer. Yes, March 1984. And
2 years the greatest year of comics, which is 86, I believe.
Well, I mean, that in itself is a whole other kind of subject, because so much of what 2000 AD had been doing for 4 or 5 years by this point, incredible storytelling, incredibly inventive, and then you get to 1986 and the rest of the world kind of almost wakes up to it in a different way, because you got Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns and everything, and so they all wake up with to that. But then you've still got this going on, which is just every week.
Isn't Secret Wars 84 around that time, and that's the end of Marvel, basically?
Yeah,
which is kind of I always think is quite interesting. It's like the Marvel run ends because they're all too old at that point, and it's like the first reboot, but it's too late.
But yeah, I mean, Haunting Sector House 9 is in this period of 2000 AD where Wagner and Grant are at the height of their powers, effectively. And every story appears and happens and is incredibly inventive and full of ideas. And then it's over in like 4 episodes. Maybe you'll get a maximum of 6 episodes out of it. And all the stuff that they've created around the story to make it make sense, to all the detail and everything, a lot of that is just kind of discarded. So actually going back to it and kind of exploring it a little bit more, that's something that the strip doesn't necessarily do an awful lot, unless it's John Wagner with his kind of long tail stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but it's also the Brett Ewingsness of basically being introduced to the good John Carpenter's The Thing through a comic as a kid, and going, "Oh, I've never seen images like this before. This is terrifying." And then, I think people I knew had seen The Thing by that point who were kids, because obviously the Video Nasties thing was like, not that The Thing was a Video Nasties, but it would all been pretty lax at school, but I think I hadn't seen it, so I was like, it's obviously influenced by it, and it's fantastic, the artwork, and his stuff is so iconic. I mean, up there with Bolland, I think, in the way he draws judges and the stuff. Though obviously, so is there, but it's like, this stuff is that shiny, poppy Dredd look. which is fantastic, I think. And I was always excited to see the Ewins' strips, whenever it was like, that was like an event, that one, to me. It seemed like its own special, it was like a movie that came on, and you're like, oh shit, I'm going to really concentrate on this like you say, I did a thing when I was writing it as well, is like, I counted the average amount of words per page just to see how much you would get to play with before it becomes too much. And it's changed all the time, like the modern 2000 AD is slightly less verbose, by about 100 words a page, I think. So it kind of, you can see that the style has, in the same way, I guess, is like, as the Marvel stuff did change over time, was really dense, and then it kind of thinned out. And I think there's a lot happens in that Sector House 9, like really, really quick, and characters are turn up, thrown away, and just like never come back. Though I was going to try and get Judge Omar back, but then I found out, I was informed by Tharg very firmly that he died in when the samurai episode, which is only about a few months afterwards, So
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah, the attrition rate of 1980s Justice Department is surely unsustainable in the long run.
Be read, shouldn't they? Because they don't last an episode often, And if you get through 2 episodes, you're lucky. But then you're going to get a call back and get shot in the back, most likely, about a year and a half time. I remember as a kid reading that thing, the what's it, Blockmania, when Giant gets killed. I'm like, what? Why? He just turns up and just gets shot. It's really horrible. It's just such a waste of a character. But that's just the rhythm of the comics like that, isn't it? It doesn't care. I think it meets its peak in something like Hell Trekkers.
Oh God, yeah.
You usually say their name and die. It's like, yeah, brutal.
I mean, that was John and Alan at like their cruelest, like their absolute mad. Like, we're going to torture these people.
What's at the end with the baby? They've got the baby all the way through it. It's a mutant, and they survive to the end, and they put it in a pond. It just swims off.
Yeah.
And they're just desolate. I mean, what? Yeah.
I mean, just coming back to the Brett Ewins thing, because I mean, the sheer number of people for whom he is a significant part of their origin story, Jamie Hewlett being an obvious candidate for that, and Brett's work at, was it St. Martin's?
Yeah.
He was at? Yeah. Like the sheer number of people he influenced, and who kind of, he played a significant part. I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you described his work as very poppy, as like pop art. And
Yeah.
that's what always appealed to me about his work. Like, I adored his Judge Anderson work.
Yeah.
Because it is just, it feels grounded, but at the same time, it feels incredibly designed at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's plugged straight into 80s design, isn't he? It's like, it's uber 80s when you look at it now. And just the clothes, like he's, designing fabric, isn't he, and stuff, and everywhere, everything's got a pattern on it, and it's, or the use of photocopy as well. So he's reproducing his own images, or I suppose photocopy backgrounds have been used by Kirby, but I think it's his like use of close-ups and repetition of faces and stuff. Which, as a kid, there was. It shows how long ago it was. There was still a marvel about the fact that you could copy something and put it into a comic. Yeah. Like, how is he doing? What is this witchcraft? How's he doing that?
Well, I mean, I was being told by my art teacher when I was a kid that photocopying was cheating.
Yeah,
because you weren't making it. And then I think I went to a different school, and all of a sudden they were using photocopiers to make like pop art collages and stuff. It was a very confusing time. But yeah, I mean, I didn't read The Haunting of Sector House 9 until many years later, but the Anderson stuff, so like The Possessed, and the Dark Judges
Mm,
were a lot of it was bound up in the Best of 2000 AD monthly, which is where I encountered it.
mm.
And the Possessed as a story is, I mean, it's gruesome. It's like uh, walls full of hands and like a child whose head has arms coming out of it and kind of pulling his face in all different directions because he's possessed by a demon. It's like, this is
Yeah.
a science fiction comic, for God's sake.
Yeah, well, it's cross genre, isn't it? Always, it's like it's science fiction just pumped into every genre you can. A lot of cowboy stuff, obviously, isn't it? It's like Strontium Dog is a cowboy
Yeah.
strip. Um, Dredd is kind of a cowboy strip, I guess. He's like a sheriff, you know, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
mixed with everything, mixed with Dirty Harry with Dredger.
I mean, were you was Judge Dee the character you wanted to do, or were you tempted to ask if you could do an Anderson story or something? Use an established character.
No, I didn't think about that. It was weird.
Mm,
I'd read some of the. I'd read I reread all the Anderson stuff I could get my hands on because I didn't obviously want to copy it or end up accidentally replicating some kind of similar story as much as
mm,
possible. But I felt like it's quite intimidating, the continuity. It's very big, and I hadn't read 2000 AD for a chunk, so I had to go back and just soak up as much of it as I could, So the case files are really useful, the books, and just rereading and kind of. I'd kept up to date kind of with the bigger thrust of stuff, but it
mm,
was, yeah, I felt like I wanted to start again, and I wanted to start in a corner of it which was a bit more, that was where I could fill it in, where I wasn't going to step on any other story toes as much as possible. So this idea
mm.
of this corruption stuff is kind of, and I know that's obviously been explored as well in the prog, but this is my little corner of it.
Because you do manage to kind of you talk about word counts on a page, but you do manage to hit that kind of hyper concentrated storytelling, which an awful lot of writers do struggle with. Particularly American writers were used to 28 pages an issue, and then you come to 5 pages an issue,
Yeah,
and
it's
you
really
got to tell a lot of story.
yeah, it's complicated to write, and it was one of those things where I'd kind of, when I got the job, I'd got at the period of elation of going, oh my god, this is like a childhood dream come true, to terror wasn't long. I think it was probably about an afternoon. I just went, oh shit, this is, every type of writing is its own discipline, and this 6-page thing is like writing a haiku, and you've only, you probably don't want to go over 9 panels if you can help it. So
Mm,
that's reducing you down. And then the tricks I'd usually have in writing for the screen don't help mostly. Because it's like they're not doing stuff, or if they do start doing something really specific, you're burning through pages, so people can't pick stuff up or grab stuff, or it's like the frame in between all the frames that you're writing about, you know and then how does that work and be satisfying, and how do you work that, because obviously every 6 pages is a 3-act structure, but then each page is a 3-act structure, and there's an out of each page and an in to the next page, and they all have to work as well, not be dull, so yeah, it was quite scary doing it.
I mean, one of the obvious questions I was going to ask was that how is it different writing movies to writing comics? But you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's very different.
yeah,
It's the same. I always suspected it was the case, because it's like when people go, "Oh, storyboarding is like comic books." Well,
mm,
yeah, kinda, but not really. I mean, it has the same. You have the same action, I think, of reading a comic book as a storyboard, because you project, as a reader, you project into the material and meet it halfway and add the sound effects and some of the emotion. So that's the
mm.
same. but the pacing is totally different, and you can see it in movies as well. Why a frame for frame adaptation of Watchmen doesn't feel like reading Watchmen at all,
Yeah.
and why say or Sin City is the same, which is always a very faithful adaptation, like super faithful, and yet it doesn't. It's a very different piece of work to my experience of reading Sin City, which is much slower, I think, much more kind of. It doesn't feel like it whizzes through in 90 minutes. It feels like a Chandler novel, but maybe that's because you go back and forth, and the way you read is different when you're reading comics. It's not as time based as film is, I don't think.
I mean, I'm always an extremist on this position, which is slavish adaptations of comics. For me, and this is a personal opinion, it does not represent the views of Rebellion or anybody who works there. Do the comic a disservice because
I think it's not to understand
you've
the
got,
different, yeah, it's not understanding the different way that they work structurally. Like I think like a novel, the writer, there's an environment, but the writer has a torch and moves the torch around the environment and shows you what's there, and then you fill in the rest of the environment. Film shows you the whole environment straight up. That's its first thing. But then the comic and the novel are you can see the interior life of characters. But in a film, you have to intuit the interior life of the character through their performance and eyes, because they don't say what they mean often, and that's totally, absolutely different. It's a totally different game. Yeah.
I mean, with someone like Judge Dee, and spoilers for anybody who hasn't caught up, because you've got her as a side judge who's possessed. So there's an interaction she can be having with the demon that's possessed her.
Yeah.
Plus, there's what's happening in front of her. Plus, there's the kind the flashback aspect to the whole thing. There's various other elements. I mean, you decided to juggle a lot in this, didn't you?
Yeah, I brought quite a lot down on myself like that. But because I was enjoying the world, I wanted to explore around, and I wanted to push it about and see what was going to happen. And yeah, there's that, and then it's dealing with multiple mythos stuff of their of the mega city itself, and then just thinking, like I said at the beginning, it's like I feel like stuff's all like just happened to me, but then I've just read it. But then to think that it's a callback to something from 30 years ago seems mad in a way. But I think that if you love reading stuff, you know it, don't you? And you'll go back and read it as well. I think it's probably one of the few medium that you can get away with that, and with an audience that you could get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the reasons I've kind of gone off a lot of the superhero stuff is because I literally don't have time to watch all the things I need to know in order to know what's, a character will pop up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, they had a TV series appearance. I'm like, I don't have time to do that. But with comics, it's a matter of seconds for me to go back to the case files and find it.
Yeah, it's not too bad, is it, at the moment? I mean, I think that it gets harder when you do that's one of the brilliant things about Dredd, is like the environment itself has a continuity to it that doesn't change. There's not been there's been reboots, kinda, but only in around movies and madly that Japanese version, which is fantastic. But so it hasn't changed. It hasn't stopped and gone back to issue one, and he's completely different, and it's a whole new look at it. Or it's I guess it's not. I suppose they've done elsewhere versions, haven't they? A little bit, but I suppose Judge Death is an elsewhere Dredd, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah, I mean, we maintain that all Judge Dredd stories, with barely a couple of exceptions, are in continuity. We've got the movie one, which is its own thing.
The American one, which I really liked. When that came out, there was a whole American Dredd, wasn't there, for a time?
Yeah, I mean, which one? The one from the 90s or the more recent ones?
The '90s one, which was it Carl Baker or something like that? I can't remember.
Uh,
But
as
it
soon as you
wasn't
said
to do with the film. It was like a completely different start, and it was all to do with the judges had just come in, and it was like early days. And anyway,
Yeah,
um,
because it was Michael Avon Oming art, Andrew Helfer.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's always been one of those things that's been, can be a bit hit and miss, because it's, different audience, different type of writer, etc.
yeah. But that
Um,
stuff doesn't. That's never impacted the main timeline, and I think that's really interesting. And I think that yeah, and the fact that he's really old, I really like that. He's getting older and older and older.
well, I think somebody said he's been complaining about like aches and pains from getting old since about 1986.
Well, I wrote something else as well, which is a dread story, and them all going, and they use a gas or something to blind people, and he goes, but he's got robot eyes, and then someone's going, has he? When did that happen? He said, oh, someone poked them out. Oh, right.
Well, right. So this is one of my big things. Like, even in Megacity One's vastly reduced state since Day of Chaos, 14 years ago, whatever it was, um, you as a citizen, you've got to live your life. You can't keep up with what's happening to Dread on a daily basis. And so the idea that I think I mean, I'm not having a go at them, but somebody said, "Oh, surely everyone would know what Dread did in XXX story." It's like, why would you? Who's going around constantly filming him? And like, it's not a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Like, your average megacity citizen isn't going to have a full volume set of case files in their heads that they can refer back to. In fact, for the majority of the citizenry, they will never encounter Judge Dredd.
No, they're too busy trying to not make eye contact with judges,
Yeah.
let alone be interested in them. Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, but then I don't really understand like the whole how big mega city is. It doesn't matter, does it? If it's 10 billion or 100 billion or a billion or
Mm.
500 million, it's still too many, isn't it? Effectively.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask about was, you have already kind of touched on this, is you've got to, this isn't your first experience of writing comics because you did Cosmic Music with Joe Curry, but looking at the pages of that, much more landscape to deal with. It's a project of your own, so you're not necessarily constrained in the same way you are in 2000 AD. But is there a fundamental? I mean, you said all writing is craft and structure in one way or another, but you're not just a writer; you're also a director, and you've got to hand over your script to an artist who's then going to do their own version of that, kind of without you. Was how did you feel about that? Was that an element of I'm excited to see what they come up with, or "Ugh, have I given them enough? Have I given them too much?" kind of thing?
Well, it's kind of like I think it's like casting. So your actors are cast, and you can give them a bit of guidance, a little bit.
Mm,
You don't want to step all over what they're doing, otherwise you don't get the benefit of their skill. Certainly with artists, I've found that it's like my script is pretty threadbare. It's not got any description in it particularly, and
right.
I'll go, well, I'll explain what it is if there's a problem with not understanding what it means. But it's not like a novel. And my scripts are like that as well. My film scripts are like that. They don't have loads of description in it. And the only time that stuff goes in, that flowery stuff, is when you're trying to raise money for something, so that the finances can understand it, and go, oh, and buy into it. But you don't do. And also actors often, when they first time they get a script, is they take all the description out and just leave their lines because they don't want to know about all that stuff.
Right.
But having worked with Joe on Cosmic, on that one, which was slightly different because I didn't write a script for that. I drew it as a because I found it was easier to work out the pacing of the pages if I drew it.
Mm.
The drawings were never a guide for Joe. They were just so he could see that there was at least there'd been one go round of thinking about how it should play out on the page, and then he would reinterpret that and go, "Oh, actually, I don't like that. The way he's done the panels, I do it completely differently." Or sometimes he used the panels because he had to, because there was so much writing in it. And that, so and certainly I didn't go back to Joe and go, "Well, I'm not very happy with their clothes," or they're not. This is not how I imagined the spaceship, Joe. Tut tut. It was just more like, "Oh my god, look at this stuff that's turning up. This is like Christmas." Whenever a page came in. So yeah, I'm very much like, when I saw Simon Colby stuff, it was like fantastic. I'm not gonna get into it with him. And there's no time. It's commercial writing. It's not like, I think I would be told quite quickly to calm down if I started writing to the artists, telling them to change everything, because I've got such a specific view of things, or getting cross when things get slightly changed. So yeah, I settled into it. It was all right. I don't think you can. I mean, I've seen like the Alan Moore, the hardcore Alan Moore strips, which are very descriptive. I don't know how that works. You have to be going into it with your eyes open as the artist, I think, because it's a particular challenge, isn't it,
Yeah.
to be able to deliver that. Um,
And I mean, also, I mean, the example people often roll out is the Watchmen pages, which are incredibly detailed. But I mean, he was asking Dave Gibbons to draw on 3 planes of action. Well, a minimum 3 planes of action. In some scenes where you've got a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, and all of it's important to the plot and the ethos and everything. Um, and I
I
think I
imagine it's from a relationship that's built up over time, and
yeah.
going back to Chronocops, it's that, isn't it? That's what
Mm.
Watchmen is. That must be the birth of it, where you go, this is like layered gags in the background, foreground.
Yeah. I
You know,
mean, I think it was their last. I'm probably wrong. I'm sure somebody will correct me. I think it was
It's
their
the thing
last.
they do before Watchmen, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
same year,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also Gibbons, from what I understand, is like, his background is so specific as well, isn't it? Because he's like
Mm,
like an architectural drafts person who can, he's not going to have a mental breakdown when he reads the script saying it's a giant crystal clock, which which I think would probably put most people over the edge. Just that one issue of Watchmen would be the end of most artists, I think.
I think an awful lot of artists would, they'd hit the bit where it's like, "Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a pirate comic as well that you
Yeah.
have to do."
And photographs.
Yeah.
You've got to draw photographs. How do you fancy that? Oh shit! Yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, it was. I remember seeing it as a kid and holding it in my hand, and like my mate had turned up to the house and he said, "I've seen something you won't believe." And I think we'd given up on comics at that point as well.
Mm.
And he brought this thing in, and I opened it up and just went, "Holy shit! What is this? What is this?" And it's like just the paper and the color of it, and it came in, and my friend brought it in the bags and go, "Be careful, you take it out and all this," and you had to look at it, and then we read it episode by episode right up until issue 12. But consuming it like live from the newsstands was unbelievable,
Mm.
because I think the last one's 2 months late as well.
Yeah, they slowed down towards the end.
Yeah, so we were
I
like
mean,
gagging for it.
who
We
can
didn't,
blame them?
you know,
Yeah.
it was crazy, and like we just think, and I don't know. I think I remember reading it and not understanding that it was in an alternate reality until like issue 4 or something. Going, what? Why do they smoke those funny cigarette? Why the cigarettes got that bowl in them? Why is that?
But they're always the best stories where there's a bit of world building and it's not explained, because why would it be explained? That's the world that they live in, you know?
Yeah,
And you've got to figure it out for yourself.
yeah. I mean, I think the other thing with Watchmen that blew me away was like, I didn't realize there was no sound effects in it till about episode 4. And it's the bit, is it 4 or 5? I can't remember, when the night owl drives off in his ship and the policemen kick the door in, they're firing guns. And I'm looking at it and going, why is there no sound coming out of these guns? And then look back at all the issues and go, there's no sound in any of it. They didn't use any sound effect. I'd never seen a comic like that before. It's bizarre.
Because I mean, this is a subject that we touched on the last time we talked, but rather than force people to go back and listen to that, although they should, of course, I'll ask you again. As you've dipped your toe into comics, have you come to appreciate the influence of comics in the way that you tell stories, and the way that you make films, and your visual language?
Yeah, I think your visual language is made up of everything around you. It's not just, it jumps about, doesn't it? It's not, I'm not just influenced by films, I'm influenced by comics, but also video games,
Mm.
the news, just the structural way the news is shot, or documentaries, or all those things. So I think it's certainly comics, and why this Marvel stuff has come to the head, because there's something about the compression of storytelling and the efficiency of comic book writing, which is important, which people don't really talk about. But it's like that delivery system of information, fast and poppy, and it not being ashamed of itself. It's,
'Cause, have you found yourself kind of becoming a more interested in printed stuff? Because you've been doing your own fanzines recently, haven't you?
yeah, I mean, that's great fun.
Mm,
And I think, yeah, well, for starters, it means a direct communication with the audience, which you don't have. It all feels a bit lame online. And when you're kind of talking through comics, it's cool. And I think it's just discovering, and I'm probably a massively late developer, but the idea of just going down to the photocopy shop and going, can you make 50 of these? And they go, yeah, sure. It's not much money to do it. It's great.
mm,
And then you're posting them out, and they're real things to real people, that asking for them, rather than you kind of putting stuff on socials and going, check it out. This is more like, do you want it? And they go, yeah, I want it. And they've got it in their hands. Um, so, but the stuff I've been doing is more like how to. But there's been some comic-y stuff, but it's more
mm,
how to stuff for the films, which I think is more useful from me.
mm.
You know, um, but I'm doing more abstract stuff at the moment, just seeing if people are interested.
Are you pushing? Are you kind of pushing them to see how far they'll go before they stop saying yes when you offer them things?
Yeah, because in it, there's a sense that I don't mind, because I get most of the pleasure is from making it. So if you get 10 people buy it, then it's not that bad at the end of the day,
Mm,
So, I'm making stuff because I'm making a lot of music as well. So it's like the hand in hand, image and music stuff.
mm,
But I'm making it anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's like that. It's fun to do the limited edition stuff because
mm.
at least it exists out there somewhere. But it's not important that it's all conquering.
And I mean, look at the time, but has Judge D? Have you been bitten by the comics writing bug now? Is
Yeah,
there
well,
going to be more?
I'd love to do more, yeah, if I can. And there's certainly looking at it and seeing how it turned out and going, oh, okay, that works. That's
Yeah.
some things work better than other things. So there's definitely, it's like a hard won skill, isn't it? Once you've done it, you go, oh, you need to keep doing it, otherwise you know, it,
Mm.
it goes away. But I'd like to see what happens to her. I think there's more story to be had. I mean, it certainly doesn't. She gets away with it, spoilers to a degree, and I think, but there's more stories to be told about that. And I just love the whole fringes of the judges. I like the Titan and all that stuff, and the Long Walk is very interesting to me. Like that they throw these people away and what happens to them, and do they? I particularly like, what's that? The one night, is it the Night of the Werewolf? The one with the, is that
Yep.
what it's called? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. with Judge Prager, who's in the Undercity.
Yeah, with Steve Dillon, isn't it, that one?
Mm.
And it's really good. And I remember reading it as a kid, going, "Oh, that's cool!" Because he drew him like he's Clint Eastwood, isn't he? He drew him exactly like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And it's that mixture of like, what do they do when they get out into the cursed earth? Really, what do they get up to? Because they can't all be good. There's been too many of those tales where they're all just saints, but I don't think they're all going to be saints out there.
Well, I mean, I always love the side of vision stuff. I mean, coming back to the Possessed, the Judge Anderson story, which of course had exorcist judges in it.
Yeah.
And I was what, 10 when I read that. Oh my God, that was just like I was really into the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And all that silly stuff. And that just blew my mind. And I think they've come back a couple of times in recent years. But yeah, you never kind of forget that feeling of your brain expanding ever so slightly when you see something new.
Yeah, it's that and the SJS as well. I mean, when I saw them in Judge Cal, I was like, "Whoa!" They that they got skulls on their hats and stuff is great, and they kind of essentially can't be. They're kind of evil, even though they're meant to be. That's all terrific stuff. And there's got to be more SJS stuff going on, I think.
Well, you might be in luck. No spoilers. But yeah, I know. Wonderful. Like I said, we could probably keep chatting about this stuff for another hour or so. But I'm kind of conscious that not everybody wants to hear.
You should do like a giveaway at halfway through, like hour 2. There's stuff. Just to make sure they're still listening. But they're probably listening at 3 times the speed, so you're all right.
No, it's fine. Maybe find some way to when they open up the audio, it locks their computer and there isn't like a password until the end.
Yeah, I think all this gold deserves to be heard.
No, but this has been it's been fantastic to catch up again, and I've been really enjoying Judge Dee. So
2036. That's going to be the next time we chat.
Oh God, no, oh, God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, don't do that to me. I feel old enough, thank you.
Yeah, it's brutal, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question, because lots of people will inevitably ask it in the comments. When are you going to do a 2000 AD movie?
When the stars align. Yes. I can't say any more than that. But yeah, it's obviously something that I am thinking about, if we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Because that would be though really writing in the prog is probably the pinnacle. It's a side dish, making a film of it, but it's like well, it's not called W.H. Smith anymore. I don't know what it's called. But
T.D. Jones is now.
That makes no sense. But I read one of I've read 2000 AD off the rack there of that I'd a Judge Dee tale, and I was like, it doesn't get much better than that.
Wonderful. What a note to end on. We've fulfilled Ben Wheatley's life. There we go.
That's it. This is it for me now. Everything's downhill.
Get 2000 AD now. Get 2000.